Greetings, Patrick here. Have Cheetah will view 8 questions with. I'm glad you're here. I am looking over a cloudy but warm day here in southeastern Michigan. It was a little chippy earlier. They say we might get some storms in later, but we shall see. We shall see. Glad to be here with you guys tonight. Our guest today will be the husband and wife team of Jude Rawlins and Rebecca Haroldson. And I cannot wait to get for them to get here. I just finished up watching one of their films called Dreamtime, which is a beautiful movie. Heartbreaking in a lot of ways, but very, very well done, very moving. And yeah, we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about isolation. See what the connection is with G's. That's that's right. Our favorite character from Iowa is going to be here in us in spirit tonight. We're talking about Jeeves from You Should Have Killed Me. He is my favorite character. No offense, Raymond. No offense, Ducky. He is my favorite character. And any chance I can get there and shout out Rob Merritt's praises, I'm going to do so because I'm not going to be crass and not do it. All right. And as you can tell when I'm saying that, this could only mean one other thing, right? This could only mean that our guests are from the mighty state of Iowa, and they are. So we have got another wonderful pair from Iowa. The gift that just keeps giving. So pleased to be able to talk to both Rebecca and Jude. Which is really interesting is that I met Rebecca first, and she approached me about interviewing just Jude. And I looked at her credits. I'm going like, well, wait a minute. You're an artist. You're working. You're an actress. I'm going to do both you guys. And so I said, do you mind? And they graciously agreed to do both, which is really cool because, and this is not the first time that we have interviewed a husband and wife team. We have done it a couple of times here on the show, and I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting to see the dynamic um, when there's both husband and wife in the business. It's interesting. They see things not always the same way. And I think that provides interesting, it provides an interesting dynamic to watch. So we will be sitting here and talking to Jude Rawlins. He's known for films such as Little Johnny Jewel. Like I said, he also did Dreamtime, and he's got some movies that just I know he's got Isolation and Three Witches that are on the docket. I want to say that Isolation got released already. I think. Well, I will find that out. Um. All right. Oh. All right. So let's get up with the calendar because I'm telling you, this has been the hardest month for me to book. In June next June, this June coming up June. This is like worse than Women in Horror Month. I have actually run across. It is very hard right now to book talent into the show, and I am working my butt off. But everybody it seems to be is starting to get busy. I hope that's the case. I really hope that's the case that people are starting to get married, well, yeah, get married too. But I really hope they're starting to get busy. I do know, and I'm going to say this, I do know that our friend Crystal Lowell, who just got done wrapping the next two Signed, Sealed, and Delivered movies, I thought that she would be taking a break because she's done 3 movies in her back to back to back. She directed one, Switching Gears for Hallmark, and then she did the two Signed, Sealed, and Delivered movies. I thought she'd be taking a break. I was like, okay, I'm going to give her a month to recover. The lady is unstoppable. She is already working on her next film. So hopefully we'll be able to talk to her in late June, maybe early July, maybe. We will keep our fingers crossed because I do want to talk to her about her Hallmark experience very much. And speaking of Hallmark, hey Betty, how are you? How are you? Well, actually, I should say, speaking of June in Iowa, don't forget that our show with the cast and crew of Webster County, The Wicked Ways of Webster County, is now going to be on Monday, June 19th. June 19th is going to be our cast and panel interview with Webster County. And Anthony is here. And she says she is feeling better than yesterday. I worked my butt off on Monday. Woo. Yeah, man, I don't know what happened to me yesterday. Um, yeah, I didn't do too much. Um, so that's going to be coming up here on June 19th. The banner is out, so you guys can hit the notify me button, and that will remind you that when we go live on the 19th, to come by and say hello. And be prepared to donate a couple of dollars because we're going to be doing something a little different for us here, and that is we're going to try to well, I'm going to be promoting the show a whole lot more than I normally do, because I'm going to be trying to raise some people up to hopefully donate a few dollars to the project. Um, I know that Michael Menard and Tyler had said they were trying to get a $17,000 budget for this film, and they had raised approximately between 25 to $3,000. That's a lot. It's a big hole, and yeah, it seems to be what's going on with a lot of filmmakers is they are tapping their media sources, and that's all they're able to get right now. They're not getting anything fresh. Everybody that they could tap out, help out and be part of the movie, has already donated. So now they need people from outside necessarily. They're from Iowa. Now they need it from all over the country. That's how it is with these Indiegogos, right? You really want to try to get people from all over the country to donate, so we could do it faster and quicker. And yeah. And speaking of Iowa, our doorbell has rang, and you know what that means. When the doorbell rings, even if before our start time, it becomes our start time because we never leave anybody in the studio. So please, we're a little early, but it's awesome. Glad you guys are here. Share us out if you can. Share us out if you will. And let's go talk to Jude Rawlins and Rebecca Haroldson. Here we go.
Hey,
Ta-da!
hey, can you hear me?
Yes,
Are we on already?
we are on already.
Okay,
I see. I
Rebecca's.
see. I see. Yeah, I was gonna say I see you, but I don't see Rebecca.
Well, I just came on to test that the microphone was working, so we were going to come on in a couple of minutes, but as I'm here,
Yeah, yeah, you're fine. Generally, as a rule, whenever someone pings me in, I don't like leaving them back there. Like as soon as they get here, let's go because we got
fair
a
enough.
lot to talk about, right?
Sorry, yeah, I guess we do, yeah.
Yeah. Um.
Congratulations on. I saw you had Richard Stanley on a little while ago, so
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
congratulations on that because he's quite an elusive character. So
He was a very nice man.
he is
He's a very nice man, and I really
also
liked
a
him a
genius.
lot.
He's also a genius, in my opinion.
He is a genius, and he really didn't deserve anything that happened to him over Dr. Moreau. That's for damn sure.
No,
Um, you
but it
know,
did make for a very good documentary, didn't it?
yes, I watched that documentary, and it was very powerful. And wow, I think I think every filmmaker should watch that documentary. Quite honestly, and it's one of the things I've been talking about too lately. Is I've noticed that it seems like now, especially with a director named Josh Trank, I'll use him as an example. He came out of the gates blazing. He came out with a Chronicle. Oh,
Sorry, Rebecca just walked in, so but she didn't realise we were already talking.
Oh,
So,
that's right. We're already talking. We're already telling Rebecca's story. There she is. Oh,
okay.
it's cold. Is it cold back there?
Hmm?
It's a
Cold.
little nippy over here in Michigan too.
It's in the 70s, but we're in a basement, so.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
I've had the fan running. I had to have 4 vaccinations today, so I currently have diphtheria and bubonic plague, and for about the next 24 hours, I have all those things. So I needed some air.
Oh man, yeah, the vaccine. Yeah, vaccines are a pain in the arm, but they're definitely needed. That's for sure.
Yeah, pain in both arms right now, but there you go.
Yeah, I was saying I noticed a recent trend, and I've been and our chat is here, and our friend Betty says hello to you, Jude and Rebecca, and
Thank
thank you for that. Um, I was talking about this, between the fact that this summer it's after everybody's coming off the strike, and I think that everybody really thought it was going to be okay, the strike's over with and everything is going to get back up to order, because it did sort of get like that after the pandemic. Everybody got a chance to go back to work, and everything just seemed to be happening really, really fast. But now it seems to be the opposite with after the strike. Now it seems that productions all scales are slowing down, or for a lot of independents, they're having a hard time securing financing. Um, I
Well,
think really what I,
it's always the case.
I think what it is too, and this is just my thought about it, but I think one of the reasons why when you finance a film, and tell me what you think about this. I think when you finance a film, you got to have, especially with an independent film, maybe even far more so than a studio film. But if for an independent film, I think it's important that you get your money back. You really need to get the money back. If you go to a financier and you sit there and say, "Yeah, I need $20,000, for my movie," and they come back and say, "Well, how do you plan on making that back? How are you planning on paying us back?" Well, if before it would be, well, we're going to sell the rights to, we're going to do streaming, and then we're going to do physical media release. We're going to do a DVD and a Blu-ray release and all that. But all of a sudden now, independent movies aren't. Not every independent movie is doing physical media. Now that because there's been some that it's like, well, we're not going to do a physical media release. I think that's a mistake for independent film.
It is a mistake. Yeah, it's a mistake exactly the same way it was a mistake in the music business.
Hmm.
And the artists who carried on producing vinyl, for example, when everyone said vinyl was dead, they're the ones who are actually making money now because it's become a merch item. Physical media has become a merch item, and if you have the kind of audience that's almost like a fan base, that's the sort of thing they like. They like merch items. They'll still watch the streaming version, but they like to have the physical media. But then, of course, the other arguments that's happened is people are noticing that they see their favorite films on a streaming service, and they've been cut, they've been edited. Something's happened to them. They're not quite the way they remember them. Maybe they've changed the aspect ratio without asking anybody or whatever it is they've done. But people who love a particular film, will probably find that they would appreciate it more on DVD or Blu-ray than they would on streaming, just because it's theirs forever. They can't take it away. Whereas I don't know about you, but I'm one of these people who I will save a whole bunch of stuff on like my Amazon watch list, and then when I actually get time to watch it, it's not there anymore because it's
Right.
fallen off. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Right.
well, I'm paying for this service. Where's the film I want? And they
Right.
lead you to believe that everything's available, but it's not always.
No, no, it isn't. And I think not only is it, it's important for physical media to have a chance to recoup your money and recoup your investment. If you get out there and you push your movie out a little bit, you can make some money off that. Find a distributor out there and then get it out there and make some money back.
Well,
Um,
I mean, things do work pretty differently in Europe because of the way things are funded. So, for example, they're more inclined to treat film as an art form in Europe,
Yeah.
which means art is not expected to make money per se, but it's expected to make people want to get involved in things or want to live in a certain place or something. And then when people show up and they move in, generations of them live there and they spend money, and it's like, well, I mean, certainly you can see how growing up watching movies set in New York or London or Paris or whatever might make you want to go there. And so they have this kind of like more subtle way of generating revenue for the economy when they're treated as art. But in America, everything's a business, so it doesn't really work that way. And that has its advantages, though, as well. When it comes to raising finance, people are allowed to spend their money any way they like. So if they want to spend it on a crazy film idea, they're allowed to do that.
Yeah, that's true because if you get subsidized by, I know in Australia they subsidize, and the UK does, and Ireland does. I don't know any other. I don't know if others do or not, but I know for sure those three do. But if you accept their money, which most filmmakers will have to accept it,
Yeah.
we're giving you $20,000. I mean, how are you gonna, we're giving that to you in one lump sum. How are you gonna, how else are you gonna raise that, But of course, they sit there and they can also dictate on what's, we get to see the script. We get to see. I don't think they have anything to do with casting, but they do have control over the script.
Well, they do. Yeah, I mean, if you're expecting to get like a £50,000 grant from the British Film Institute or something, there's a lot of hoops to jump through to get that, And I mean, the fact that it exists in the first place is kind of really positive, And it exists because they support filmmaking and they support artists in a way that they don't everywhere else. But you still have to go through a lot to try and get it. And sometimes it's so much of a compromise that it's not worth it,
Right.
And like there's this idea that that what you're making is a kind of art house thing. But if you want to make a truly experimental art house film, you can't be held to account over whether or not your screenplay is any good by a bunch of people who don't really understand it and not passionate about it. So,
I mean, when I think of British filmmaking, of course, and of course, I think of two genres right off the bat. I mean, you guys are excellent at it, probably the best at it. To tell you the truth. One is period pieces, and two is gangster films. British gangster films are badass. I mean, it's just straight out badass. There's so many of them. Over here we talk about like movies like Heat. Like that's a great movie, and that's the only movie. It's like there's not too many movies like Heat that like that we produced over here. But in the UK, there's a ton of them. I mean, there's a lot of them out there. And the other one is the period pieces. The Jane Austen and the Shakespeare and whatnot. Now over here, we're totally enamored with Bridgerton. Oh my gosh, that's the latest thing over here in the United States. I'm sure you've noticed that.
I've never seen it, so
Yeah, I have never seen it either. All I know is I just barely heard of Outlander, and I know that was good. I know that was the big thing for a minute. I think that was a very popular show. And then now it's Bridgerton, and people are just they're just going goo over it. But it's a beautiful period piece, and and the Brits, they do that better than anybody else. Now, did you do either one of those two films when you were over in the UK as you when you were cutting your teeth as a director? Did 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 you find yourself gravitating to those two genres because they are so popular in the UK? Or tell us
um,
about your first short film.
I mean, I've never made a genre film at all, so I don't really know. I'm not attracted to that really. Sometimes I'll do something that flirts with the genre, and like the film we're planning at the moment is both a spaghetti western and a British sort of folk horror thing, and but only in a kind of like satirical way, really. So I've never really engaged with any genres at all. I've thought about it. I've had occasionally have an idea that seems like it might fit into them. We made it. I mean, our latest film, Mania, is probably something you could market as a psychological thriller, but I wasn't thinking that way when I wrote it. I was just writing what was in my head, really. So it's however it comes out. I don't really try to fit it into anything. And I actually think that in some cases, and in British film is a particular one, really. That I mean, I don't think the British filmmaking is particularly good at genre stuff. I mean, when it comes to period pieces, because we have a large literary background, we have access to those places. A lot of those buildings and streets still exist, and so it's easy to just do that, And
the housing,
you can make London look like everything from like the 13th century to 1941. I mean, it's not that difficult to do that if you find the right street,
I was thinking about the estates. Oh my God! It seems like every time there's a period piece, where you just walk over there and there's a just absolutely stone cold gorgeous, building right there, a house, and you're just like,
well, everything that you need from a medieval castle to a Victorian stately home, we got it.
Yeah.
So,
over here they have to build stuff like that. We don't have anything like that.
Actually, yeah, there's one near here called Salisbury House, which is it's a copy of an English Tudor house, and of a specific house, and they demolished like a Victorian pub or something and brought it over brick by brick, so they had authentic things to make it with. It's really funny when you go in there because it almost feels like the real thing, and then suddenly there's like a central heating fixture built into the wall that was obviously there when they built it, and it's like, well, we didn't have those in the 15th century, So, but it looks pretty authentic. Apart from that,
Now, I the one thing I was going to add. Now we're talking about different locations, and we'll touch on. I just want to throw this one question at because I wanted to know. But what was that bridge in Dreamtime? Was that in Iowa? Is that in Martinsville? What is that? How high is that bridge? I mean, it looked really cool.
It's the High Trestle Trail. It connects two towns in Iowa called Madrid and Woodward, and it's I don't know, maybe 30 miles at most northwest of the Des Moines metro area. So it's not too far away, but yeah, the High Trestle Trail is a beautiful bridge.
It's like a mile long, and I think it's about 150 feet high. It's really high.
I was surprised because you're walking behind Rebecca and she's staring out over it, and you could see that it was, you're thinking Iowa doesn't have any mountains to it, and then yet you look down there and there's this, it was a long drop.
Yeah.
I was like, and then definitely you could tell it was some sort of art, some sort of walkway because of the art, over the bridge itself.
It has those neon lights on it, which are really interesting.
Yeah, it's a really cool bridge. I think it's over the Raccoon River.
Yeah. It's the sort of place that, like, if you're a filmmaker and you discover a location like that, you kind of have to use it. It would be rude not to,
Yeah, I've never seen that before. I mean, I've never seen anything about that bridge or anything. It was like so cool, and it's like wondering that. That's why I asked. I was wondering if it was in Iowa because it was so high, and it's sure enough.
I mean, maybe now we put it in a movie, it'll become a landmark because it deserves to be.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you can see people have been. I think that was probably you guys. Did you drive like a golf cart on there?
We didn't. No. I wish we could. I wish we had, actually, because when we filmed up there, it was in the middle of winter. It was really, really, really cold, and of course at that height, it was super cold. Well, you can hear the wind in the film,
Oh, and you can see it on the breath too.
Yeah, and but to get to the bridge, to film on the bridge, I mean, the bridge itself is like a mile long, and we were like halfway across and we were filming, and then the walk to the bridge in the snow was like another mile. So it was a mile and a half there and back in freezing cold conditions. So
yeah,
it
it was an interesting couple of days that we did that. I don't think I've ever been so cold in all of my life. I had many layers on and I was still freezing.
Yes, yes. And I noticed the one scene, the one scene where Alice is walking and she stops and she lights a cigarette, and I'm going like, that lady's not smoking that. She's not smoking that. She said that would hurt her lungs so bad because you can see the air coming out of your breath. I'm like, yeah. And then it's like it looks like she's smoking, and then you cut back to it and she's just throwing it away. I'm going like, yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't see her smoking that at all because she's going like, oh, no. I don't know if you do. I don't know if you in real life smoke or not, but I do know in that scene that wasn't happening. That would have been too painful.
I'll tell you something. In fact, Rebecca was never a smoker, and we decided that the character should be, because they had the conversation about it later on the bridge, you know. And but I was still smoking at that point, so I actually did smoke that cigarette, and so yeah.
Well, I bet it hurt, didn't it?
I don't remember. I was pretty hardcore in those days. So.
Yeah, well, you smoke in that kind of weather. You're like that's painful.
Yeah, but yeah, it was cold. It was very cold.
Yeah, good. And you guys did such a great job too. I was listening to mentioning about Grant was your, he was your actor, but he was also your technical advisor, technical director. And I'm going like, so he had to do two jobs, and it's
not when he was on camera. When he was on camera, I had to do everything. That's what that
right. So were you switching off then? I mean, like when it was Rebecca's, when it was her turn being filmed, did he film that? And then
it was all me.
Oh wow, okay. All right.
He did do some of the grip work when he wasn't in the scene. So
he did a really nice job.
He did. I really like his performance because the character needs a certain, I don't know, he has a particular flavor and it needs a certain kind of performance. And I felt that Grant achieved that really well in the film, and I love all the performances in the film, actually.
Yes, it's a very good film.
Thank you.
I thought it was very well done. Our good friend Al is here, and there's a fellow Brit in the house. Our friend Mike is here. Hey, Mike, how are you? I see. I'm interviewing another British director. Another one. That's right. That's right. I'm letting them know that I'm taking over. Well, I guess we'll to go back to the beginning before we come back to Dreamtime, because I definitely want to do that. But I want to go back to you guys' beginnings a little bit. And Rebecca, we're going to start off with you because I want to hear your story. Have you always, when did you want to get into the business? Were you always a performer? Did you always live in Iowa?
Yeah, I was born and raised in central Iowa, so I haven't ventured too far away from where home is, but I was, I think, maybe 7 or 8, maybe 9, somewhere in there, and my mom actually took me to one of the local talent agencies because one, she knew I did enjoy performing, but also I was kind of really shy, and she thought that would kind of help me get over my shyness. So she took me to one of the local talent agencies, and I signed with them when I was, I think 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there. I was pretty little. And she was always very supportive in that it was, if you want to do it, do it. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. She never pushed me into doing anything. I was always the one who was like, I want to do it. I want to do it. And so I kind of started there, and really being in central Iowa, especially at that time, most of the opportunities are going to really be kind of commercial or theater. And so those were kind of the areas that I did most of my stuff, was commercials or theater stuff. And then when I was in college, they brought in the state of Iowa for a very brief period of time, had some tax credits. And so we had quite a few projects for maybe 2 years before those ended due to some stuff that is very complicated and complex. But those ended. And during that time is really when I got more of an opportunity to do film stuff. And so that was the first time, actually, I think that I was on a film set was during that period of time. Would have been, yeah, like 2008, 2009. And after that, I just kind of started taking any sort of opportunities that came my way in terms of film opportunities. There's a lot of people who are doing, kind of small independent projects throughout the state. So I was always like, I'm here if you need somebody. I also would do occasional theater because I do really enjoy live theater. I enjoy being a kind of a part of that live experience where you make a connection with the audience in a way that you don't necessarily get to do on film. But yeah, that's pretty much how it's always just kind of been a fun thing that I enjoy doing. And when I'm not doing it, it feels weird. Like it feels like a part, like I guess the best way to describe it is it feels like a part of me is missing, it's something that I'm really drawn to have to do when I'm not doing it, and I'm not getting the opportunity to perform or getting the opportunity to at least be a part of it, even if it's not in front of a camera or on stage. I still really just enjoy being a part of that environment.
Were you surprised that once you started getting into it, leaning into the acting, were you surprised? Like I was. I mean, like I interviewed a director, Tim Connery. He did a movie called Death to Metal. And then next thing I know, I started, discovering there's a lot of people from Iowa, a lot of talent. I mean, a lot. Were you surprised that all of a sudden you realized that there was a lot of peers that were in Iowa? There's a lot of projects. Did it take you a little bit by surprise, or were you thinking that maybe you would have to leave the state if you want to advance your career?
Yeah. So, I mean, there was a period of time, especially in my teens, where I thought that I was probably going to have to leave the state of Iowa. And I looked at, going to a larger market somewhere. But I never really did. I enjoyed being close to home. I enjoyed being in Iowa. I enjoyed being an Iowan. So yes, I mean, I did think that there would be a time when I thought I might have to leave. But that was also a time when I was also thinking of it more in a career, like this is the career path that I want to go down. And I wouldn't necessarily say at this point in time in my life that I view it as like a career path for me personally. I view it more as an art that I feel I have to be a part of in some way. But I'm satisfied with the things that are available to me here. And you're right. There are a lot of really amazing, talented people in the state of Iowa doing a lot of really cool things across the board, across live performances, across performance art. There's people doing web series, people doing feature film, people doing short film, people doing all sorts of different things. And there's, I think that there is a lack of awareness oftentimes across the state in what other people are doing. It seems like sometimes we're kind of segmented into like, here's the central Iowa people, here's the eastern Iowa people, here's the northern Iowa people. And so we don't always know what's going on in those other areas. And so it is really cool sometimes when we see, oh, wow, there's this really cool project that I just got to see that came out of, I don't know, Cedar Rapids or the Quad Cities area or, northern Iowa that I didn't even know was happening, but it's done and it's amazing. So
it used to be, and maybe because especially to me, it's even more so today than it used to be. But in the old days, back when I was just getting going, do you feel if a local artist was making noise, local actor was making noise, maybe maybe had they left the small town and went to California or whatnot, or there was a new theater going up or new play going up there. It used to be that actors and their projects would be written about. You could sit there and like, oh, okay, and it would raise awareness of that to people like, hey, you do have a live theater in your town, and you do have actors going on in your town. And did I just see that? Was that Joe I saw in that Star Trek episode? I didn't. He's from Iowa. That used to be they used to write about things like that. Now to the point now where local press, it's not the local press that's giving you the coverage, so to speak. It's not the local press that's pushing out that, hey, Iowa's a hell of a place to make a movie. It's social media. It's social media that has come in here and doing stuff like we're doing today. Like, I'm based in Michigan, but here we are talking about Iowa. And back in the few, couple of 20, 25 years ago, that would never happen. We wouldn't be doing this. And it would be the Iowa media that's supposed to be doing it. But it just seems to me like they don't do that anymore. They don't really support it or generate interest in music or art. Do you think that's a fair assessment, or does that apply to Iowa for you, or do you feel like you've been supported?
I mean, I personally, I've had a lot of support from the local newspapers and stuff certainly in Marshalltown, which is where I was originally based in Iowa, which was the hometown of Gene Seberg, which is how I found it in the first place, And so when part of my rationale was, if I wanted to make a film in London or New York or LA, and I said so, it would be like join the queue. But if I show up in Marshalltown and say I want to make a film, the first thing is like, you're crazy, and then the second thing is, how can we help? And that's kind of how it went. And there's things that we accomplished because we're in the middle of perceived nowhere that we couldn't have done if we had been somewhere, And it's cheaper, and people are so enthusiastic for it because it's not something that happens to them every day, And so, yeah, and it's I find it's really easy to generate a sort of at least a working level of excitement, like on a local scale, which is much, much, much harder in the city.
Yeah, and I think that has to do a lot with those smaller local communities that are excited about having, these types of opportunities. I think larger metro areas, I think you're right. I think that in those larger metro areas, it is hard to get local media to pay attention to you.
I mean, I would go to during the lockdown, I would go to a drive-through to get some food, Burger King or whatever, and they would hear me speak. And they'd say, "Hey, are you that English filmmaker guy that they read about in the local paper?" And if I got into Time Out New York or Time Out London and walked down the street, nobody would notice or care, Whereas in Marshalltown, it can make a life-changing difference. So.
Well, I have to say, I definitely have to say too, it probably has a lot to do also with the quality of your films too. That's like I said, I watched Dreamtime, and yeah, so far I've hit home runs so far. As far as watching films from Iowa, Death to Metal was great, fantastic movie, a lot of fun, horror movie. I watched Michael James Bernard's, You Should Have Killed Me.
Yeah.
And I gave Rob Merritt a shout out before you guys got here.
Right.
Yeah.
So Rob's actually in the new. He's in Kevin Isaacson's new film. He's the main guy in it, I think. And so Kevin's just completed a film called When the Music Fades, and you're in it for you're in one scene as well.
I am. I'm in there.
But so Kevin, and I can't wait to see this film. It's been such a passion project for him, and he had so many obstacles making that film, from funding to losing actors and everything else, and he kept going and he's made it. And it's just the story of how he made that film and why is worthy of a film in its own right, and So, I would say keep an eye out for When the Music Fades when that comes out.
Oh, definitely. I mean, his star, I definitely think, is on the rise.
Yeah.
I saw Amelia 2.0. I absolutely loved him, and You Should Have Killed Me. He was my favorite character in that movie. It cracked me up. He cracked me up so much. And then of course, he played Alice's husband, and
Well, he's
yeah,
also in Mania, the new one. He plays the psychiatrist, and he's in Isolation as well. So
it's called Isolation.
He's been in every film I've made in Iowa so far.
No, but you know what though, but that doesn't this you do that because he's that good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how would you rate the pool of actors in Iowa? I mean, as a director, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but how would you rate the pool?
That's easy. I get asked this quite a lot, and so I'll give you like several examples. Rebecca's one of them. Rebecca's performance in Dreamtime is outstanding, and Grant is really great in the film, and Rob's been great in everything that I've put him in, which is why I keep using him, as you say. And but then little Johnny Jewel, we discovered Cheyenne Good, and she's working all the time now. And she got her first award with me on that film, at Berlin Indie, and now she's like never out of work. And then Dreamtime, I think possibly my proudest moment as a filmmaker was when I discovered the actress Amy Van Holland, who plays Hester in Dreamtime, and her opening scene in Dreamtime, the way Albie finds her in the film. Was, to me, I thought, I want to give her the best, craziest, wildest, most memorable entrance any actress has ever had in a movie, because she's that good, And I mean, Amy had never been. She had been in like one short film before, which is what I saw her in. And I was saying to Grant, "Who the hell's that? We've got to get her. Who is she? How is she that good? She'd never done it before. She's just a natural." And we were all completely gobsmacked with her in every scene in that film. And she's gonna, we've got her in. She's going to be our Lady Macbeth in the next film. You know what I mean? She's our secret weapon. So,
I tell you, so who was there's a lot of good performances in that movie.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, who was also really good was Josh, played Felix.
Oh yeah,
dude, he was a big dude.
Yeah,
he was huge. I was just like, damn, that guy's huge.
Yeah.
But
and I gave him a really, really high voice as well.
Yeah. I thought, and again, we got to talk about Rebecca's performance, because that was spot on. I'd like to know, how did you research Alice? What did you do to research her character?
Well, I have never, the things that she's gone through in her life, I've never personally experienced. But I have people close to me in my life who have. And so one of the things that I did was, I don't know what it's like to be someone, struggling with addiction, but I know what it's like to love someone who's a family member, someone who's close to you, someone who's important to you. And so that person, I just kind of was looking for guidance from, and was able to kind of get some, at least foundational understanding. Obviously I can't understand what it's like, but I can listen and take what I learn and try and apply it as best I can to that character. That's what I did.
I thought you captured it perfectly, to tell you the truth. I did. I thought you did it perfectly. You had that faraway stare, the like the in the fog, walking in the fog. After you lose somebody like that, like the first couple of weeks, you just don't see anybody in front of you. You really don't. And it's like, you always want to take the car keys away from somebody who, if someone suffers a loss like that, you want to take the car keys away for at least a couple of weeks, because they're not going to know where they're at. And I just thought that, because a lot of people thought, well, wouldn't she be all upset and crying? And like, no, not at all. I mean, that's exactly how she would be. She would be dog and not, and of course the alcohol might loosen her up, but take away the alcohol and the way she was numb and couldn't comprehend what was going on. Um, that was a really good performance. I'm thinking she got that really well, and I was wondering how you could do for the role.
There's a particular moment as well, where she realizes that the therapist isn't really getting it, and you can actually just see her like momentarily just tune out, like there's no point in continuing this session because this person's not going to understand where I'm coming from. And I mean, Rebecca she can express that without saying anything. So and that film is absolutely dependent on those moments of like when Albie loses his mother and he calls his sister and he's still eating the toast, on the stairs. It's like losing somebody, the shock of the moment of losing somebody can be that totally matter of fact. And it's, I mean, I've been through that and it really is like that, because it's too big to process. So you just put one foot in front of the other in a kind of daze, really.
Sometimes people can shake it off, and sometimes people just they can't. Some people they just I was thinking that watching it because we're talking about Alice's addiction, and I was sitting there and I was watching it, her performance, and out of the blue I started thinking about that young golfer, like who was one day he was playing golf, the next day he ended his life. And I just, as I thought about that, I'm going like, I had a feeling that he went back to his room and got hammered.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I said, you know what? He got frustrated. He couldn't take it. He just went back to his room. He got tanked. And then he says, you know what? I'm just tired. I'm done. I reached the end of my rope. And that's what happened to him. He just couldn't go for any further. That happens, and you watch a movie like Dreamtime or another great movie. I don't know if either one of you have seen it, but it's called Night Mother.
No, I haven't.
It's Sissy Spacek and Bancroft.
Right, brilliant actresses.
Yeah, powerful movie.
Yeah,
really good movie.
Yeah.
The one, Jude, is the fact that you shot it in black and white. So explain your choice about that. Why did you choose to do the movie in black and white?
Well, there's a little part of me, I'll be honest, that thinks everything should be shot in black and white. Just because my favorite film of all time is Nights of Cabiria by Fellini, and my favorite American film is Casablanca, and they're both black and white, and I feel like perfection was achieved in black and white in a way it's never been achieved in color. Because color, I mean, I love color, but there's too much to look at sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
And because of the way, because we chose to film in winter, and because of the way the snow sucked the color out of the landscape anyway, I thought, well, this is a perfect excuse to just not bother with color, and also when you shoot in black and white. So I had this conversation with Kevin actually, but he was saying that he had a film in black and white, but he actually shot it in color, and then in post-production he changed it to black and white, But I didn't. I used the black and white profile on the camera. It was never going to be in color, So, but it also enabled me to, because I was the crew of one, because Grant was in the film, so I was doing sound, and I was doing the lights, and I was doing the camera, and I was directing the scenes, and when you can stick a light up, but without having to worry about whether or not the color is too garish or something, because all you're looking for is the light or the shadow, it's way easier and way quicker. So it was a practical consideration as well. But also the previous film, Little Johnny Jewel, was a big production. It was 2.5 hours, and it was color, and it was all kinds of things going on in that film, and it was really color corrected. And I wanted to make something that was deliberately smaller, and I also felt that there's just a few characters in this film, and it's all about the characters, and occasionally their sense of space, like the location, like the bridge or what have you, and that I could focus your attention better if the only thing that you were looking at was the subject, rather than being distracted by, cinematography.
Yeah, I noticed there was a lot of tight shots on, between Alice and Grant, or Albie, it's like a lot of tight shots. There wasn't very
Yeah.
many pull away shots or what have you.
Yeah.
How long did it take to shoot that segment on the bridge? How many days were you there?
It's 2 days. It's 2 sessions. We did the daylight bit. We did 1 day, and it was so cold that day that we actually had to abandon it. And all we got was the opening shot where they first meet on the bridge.
Okay.
But I had always wanted to do the rest of it kind of after dark. I wanted it to,
of course,
take its time. So we actually waited until right near the end of filming, when it had warmed up a little bit, to go back and do the main dialogue scenes on the bridge. And actually, we weren't the only ones, because when we went out there to film the first time, we were the only people up there, and the second time it was like non-stop party central on that bridge. You can't tell because we didn't, we shot around it, but like there were like people walking past all night.
So, they heard you were making a movie. They're trying to steal scenes from you.
No, they were just being obnoxious and
maybe 20 feet away from us.
Yeah.
People came and they set up. They were like
mobile discotheques.
Yeah,
dogs,
they had like music,
so.
and they were like partying like maybe 20 feet away from us. These like teenagers. It's like it's a mile-long bridge. Like why?
Yeah. Wow. I would have asked them to move down the road a piece. I would have said, hey,
Yeah,
I
did consider it, but then it turned out one of them had a gun. So,
Jesus.
But no, it was fine in the end, because when it started to get a little bit colder, they soon went away, and then that was actually the moment at which I wanted to shoot the scenes anyway, because I didn't want them looking too comfortable. I wanted them looking,
Oh.
So.
And I got positioned right over like a hole in the bridge. And so the whole time when I was sitting there, the wind kept just like blowing up the back of my my coat. So it looks like I would be warm, but there's wind blowing right up the back of my coat. The whole, like we were there for what, maybe 4 or 5, something like that. We were there for a long time.
Yeah.
So it was cold night, cold day.
Now Alice wears a cap. That cap has become a character all of its own. So tell us about the cap, Jude, and how many movies has it popped in? How many movies has your cap?
It's been in 2 movies now. So the mechanic in Little Johnny Jewel wore it originally. So I'll explain the history. It starts with that character. So the logo is a soccer team. It's Aston Villa, which is the team where I grew up in southern Birmingham in England. And their color is kind of burgundy and light blue. And he was wearing his burgundy t-shirt and his kind of light blue dungaree, denim. And so I wanted him to, and his name is Leyland, and the British Leyland car factory was the local business there. Basically, Birmingham is the UK's Detroit. You're from Michigan, so you'd understand.
Right.
It's all car factories and garage rock music, and occasionally soul music, like Steve Winwood comes from Birmingham. So that was what I kind of grew up with. So I put that in Little Johnny Jewel, and then I saw a film with I was talking about it recently. I think it was Vigilante with who's that actress who directed that film that everybody hated last year? I can't remember her name. Olivia Wilde. Yeah, there's an Olivia Wilde movie called Vigilante, and in the film she puts on a cap and she pulls her ponytail through the cap, and I thought, I want that shot. I want to use that. There was something about that I thought was intimate and interesting, and then so I had Rebecca do it in silhouette in the shot becomes the opening sequence of the film, and and then so. And because it's in black and white, it's not immediately obvious it's the same hat, but it is the same hat.
Now, did you make, did you have Rebecca audition for the part of Alice, or did you have enough faith in her already just to give it?
it was
Was it-
actually I had the idea for the film gestating for a long time, but it was only after I met Rebecca, when I worked with her on Little Johnny Jewel, and I felt that she had, exactly the thing that would make the character work, and so when I went to the production company, I actually said to them, I had this idea for a film, and I'm gonna make it with Rebecca Haroldson, and if she doesn't want to do the film, we won't do the film. So it was like, literally, I wouldn't have made the film with anyone else, and I was that sure she was right for the part. That's another reason why Amy's performance in the film is so great, because for me that was the surprise. You know what I mean? Like, I knew that Rebecca was going to be great in it, but so having other people also be great in it was like a real bonus for me.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Grant did a really great job as Albie,
Yeah.
and the young man who played Felix, I was really captivated by him too. I
Oh
was
yeah,
thinking, well, that guy was, he stole the scene that he was in. I
he
mean, he
did.
seemed like such a normally nice guy. He's a little bit witty, and then you see him leave, and all of a sudden, then you find out that who he really is. It's like, damn, that guy's rough.
Yeah.
Now, how did you find the young lady? How did you find Cheyenne? I mean, because she said she really hadn't done anything up to that point.
So Cheyenne, we had cast Cheyenne in Little Johnny Jewel, and what happened there was that we had a lead actress in the part who had been in since the very first day of developing the film, and she's Hollywood, and she's SAG, and she's all these things. And then there was an incident, and she had a health issue, and we delayed the film. This is Little Johnny Jewel. We delayed the film for 6 months originally because of COVID, and then we delayed it again because she had this accident, and then she still wasn't cleared to travel to Iowa, and our insurances are going to run out, and it was just suddenly, if we delayed it again, it was going to turn into like the kind of costs that were going to ruin the film. We were going to lose the movie. So I had no choice but to recast it at the last minute, and Cheyenne was the person we found. This girl from Indianola who had never done anything like that before, and she had about 2.5 weeks to prepare for the role, and she completely nailed it. So when I needed somebody to be the flatmate, the roommate in Dreamtime, who's got for an actor, it's a really difficult job, because they're not the point of the scene. It's their job to create the architecture for the other actor to bring the character forward, and it takes a real skill to do that well, And Cheyenne is just one of these people who is very smart and very generous, and really cares about her particular job on the film, whether it's a lead role or a minor role. She'll give you the same level of commitment. Rebecca's like that as well, and that lack of ego is one of the best things about working in Iowa, because people are just so happy to be working at all.
Yeah,
really, especially to be on an interesting film, because there's a lot of stuff out there that gets written, especially parts for women, that are not massively inspiring, put it that way.
Yeah, a lot of them, the same old, by the numbers, it's like, what's the challenge in that? Like,
so if I get something that's a bit more fun and a bit juicy than that, they're very quick to say yes, I find.
And then Amy found at the 48. Amy was in a 48-hour film festival. Short film.
Yeah.
Now, have you done one of those yourself, Jude? Have you done a 48-hour film challenge?
No. Well, I mean, I've been to see them, though. I've sat through them. I think I deserve something for that.
There's been some outstanding ones. I mean, it's sort of scary. It's like you're sitting there going like, I'm not really believing the fact that you got this done only 2 days. But
the thing that I love the most about it, because I'm not, like I said, I'm not much of a genre person. So if it's a horror thing, whatever, that doesn't really interest me that much. But what I really appreciate about it is that it's just guerrilla filmmaking, you know, and there's absolutely nothing to it other than the idea that actors and grab a camera and go and do it, you know. And that's really, really interesting to me. That's the way all films should be made, really. You know, there's no business to it at all.
Now, you know, we talked a little bit about the black and white aspect of your films. Have all your films been in black and white, or
No.
was this the first time that you shot a Dreamtime? Was that your first black and white film?
It's not my first black and white film. It's so I made there's an unfinished film that I made of Faust about 8 or 9 years ago, which I thought was going to be like my epic, my masterpiece and everything else. And then because of money and things to do with organizations in the UK, I was unable to complete the film, which is one of the banes of my existence. Maybe I'll go back and fix that one day. But that was shot in black and white. And I love working in black and white. And I did like a whole concert movie in black and white in Germany once, which was really interesting. But this is the first, and a few short films. So I always use black and white for short films. I don't see there's any point in wasting time on color correction. So if I was going to do 48 hour, I would do it in black and white so that you don't waste time on color correction, you know. But I've been working in both black and white and color since I came to America, and I'm inclined to let the project tell me what it wants, you know. And like I say, with Dreamtime, with the intimacy of it and the snow and everything else, it was a no-brainer to do it in black and white, really, you know. But color would probably be my default at the moment, but that may change. We're making a film right now called Isolation, which is in color, but it's really drained color, so it's almost colorless, even though it's in color. Like all the rooms are gray, you know, and everything. It's like that kind of thing.
Now, what's Isolation going to be? What's that going to be about?
Well, it's actually I won an award at the Nouvelle Vague Awards in Paris last year. I won Best Art House Filmmaker, and I thought I won it for Dreamtime, but I thought I'd better make an art house film, so I've earned this award, you know. And so this is my sort of doff of the cap to Chantal Akerman and things like that. So basically, the premise of it is that there's a girl who is suffering from some kind of trauma. Basically, she missed a flight, and then the flight crashed, and everybody died. And she's dealing with just normality, but her sense of normality is completely gone, you know, because of something is gonna annoy me here. Somebody's
Tony Todd's not making an appearance, is he?
So say again, sorry.
Tony Todd's not in this movie, is he?
No, I don't know who that is.
You don't know who Tony Todd is?
No.
Oh my gosh. You ever heard of a movie called Final Destination?
No.
Okay. It's
Rebecca said of it.
I've seen it.
Okay. so you know who Tony Todd is. You have to show him some Tony Todd movies. Tony Todd's an amazing actor.
Right.
But this one near that this is here. It's a drama. So I'm looking at it. You have Rob playing the psychiatrist.
Yeah.
I'm all in already.
So. And also, it's the second time he's played a psychiatrist, and it's the second time he's played a psychiatrist in that office as well. But it's a bit of an Easter egg as to whether or not it's the same character. We'll let the audience decide.
Oh, really? That's interesting. That's interesting. So, is it the same character?
It's not for me to disclose.
Really? Oh, wow, that is so neat. Yeah, so that's sort of like an Easter egg. That's cool.
So maybe it's a prequel to Mania, and maybe it's not.
You know why I'm saying this, because I gotta tell him this. So in Final Destination, the plot of the movie is this guy he gets a vision of the plane taking off and blowing up. So he says, I don't want to get on. I want off this plane. So he gets up, and his friends follow him off the plane.
Right.
and he falls off the plane, and then the plane takes off, and sure enough, it blows up. So they cheated death, and
Mm-hmm.
Tony Todd plays death,
All right.
and he does that in the next two movies as well.
Okay.
So it's interesting. You have Rob as your psychiatrist and playing the same character in the same type of movie. That's very cool. But your movie is going to take it a lot more, playing it a lot more straight, which I can respect. I mean, yeah. That's now, and see, now I just want to see it, because I want to see if it's really, the one of the same characters.
Most of the film consists of Emily Kincaid, who plays the central character, just doing mundane things, but she does them in a way that they almost become operatic, because once you're aware of the fact that she's going through something, and you understand that every single one of these mundane things is an epic effort, so closing the blinds, doing the washing, playing chess with herself. There's a guy who maybe she'd been on a couple of dates with, and he's really, really into her, and she's like had enough, so she won't take his call, so he shows up at the door, and she just tells him, to F off, basically. She's not interested, and it's like her sense of detachment from everything is what elevates every single one of the scenes, and it's very influenced by, like I say, Chantal Akerman, particularly Jean Dillman, in which she seems to do almost nothing but for 3 hours, but like boil potatoes and do the washing and all that sort of thing, and then like a guy comes in and she kills him, and so it's kind of looking for the like the kind of edge in everyone's apparent mundanity.
So she's pretty much carrying the whole show on her, the whole movie on her shoulders.
Yeah.
And this is, I take it that grief is a central theme in all your movies. I take it that you are really well. I take it you know grief really well. I won't pry into that.
No, that's interesting. I actually hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah, I mean, there is definitely a component of that. I mean, Little Johnny Jewel, whenever anyone asks me what that film is about, I say it's about second chances, and which is something that anyone who's ever experienced intense grief wishes they had, So I would say that's fairly astute. I think grief has been a big influence on the films. I don't know about the next one so much, because it's such a wild.
I'm not gonna. I know some people would come back and say that grief is a genre film, but I disagree with it. I don't think it's a genre film at all. I think it's life is what it is. And like when I was watching Dreamtime, I didn't see the movie fit in. I couldn't put this movie. I couldn't fit it into any sort of cookie cutter. There's a lot to be said there. Between Alice and Albie, there's a lot to be there, and I liked how you just kept on fading back and bringing us back to where they, how they got to where they got to,
I think human fragility and those moments when we feel powerless are some of the most interesting moments to explore, and like the scene in Dreamtime where the ambulance drives off and you just see him standing in the street in his pajamas in the snow, and it's like, because he's completely powerless over what's happening, and that sense of powerless, that thing that we all dread, those moments in life when your worst nightmare comes true and you're stuck with it, and how small those things can be in reality. Like we said, how do you deal with that? What do you do next? When they carry your love off in the back of an ambulance, what's the next thing that you do? Well, you probably just stand there scratching your head and wondering what to do.
Yeah. And for some people, they stay right in the street throughout and scratch their head throughout the rest of their lives. Like, what do I do? How do I get around this?
And really, Dreamtime in particular is about that, because, had they not run into each other on the bridge by total chance, they would probably both be dead. You know what I mean? They would probably have ended their lives that night. That was what they were intending to do. And by ruining each other's big exit, they create a spark of hope in each other. And
Sure.
and it's like, and I felt like that was the film that I wanted to make. It, you know, it's interesting. People have different interpretations of the ending. But I think it's very positive because they just go off and have breakfast at the end, you know. And
Yeah. No,
to me
I,
that's the ending, you know.
yeah. I mean, you don't really know what's going to happen. I mean, you feel hopeful, you
Yeah.
know, you feel hopeful, um, and it's a good way to leave a movie. You know, it's like it's sort of like with Night Mother, it's the opposite. It's the mother has one night. Like just like Alice and Albie, they're there that one night, and they're there trying to save each other. Inadvertently, they know it or not, but that's
Mhm.
what they try to do. And then and Night Mother, it's the mother, and she's trying so hard. She's just and how she just grasps at anything moving. And she because she knows that her
Yeah.
daughter is 100% telling her, like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not, there's nothing you can do to stop it, but until then, let's just have a normal night. And the mother's like, how the hell am I supposed to have that?
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's a desperate race. It's a desperate race. And
But
though I didn't feel that,
there's that
I
thing about
def-
the power of identification though as well. Because if you could have a problem, you could go and see 20 different therapists and they've all read every book on the subject, but they can't connect with you. Whereas one other person who's been there will totally connect with you. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's all it takes to give you that spark of hope, you know. So
I can tell you, this is one of the weirdest ones I saw. So the reason why this film connected pretty well for me was because I'm there now. I lost my wife 13 years ago, or 11 years ago, and I was actually seeing a counselor at my local church. And so I go in there, and I'm talking to her, and she's sitting there, and she's, very, okay, this is what we should do next. This is what, and all practical, all from a place of, trying to help you out. I go in there like in like a month and a half later to, check up on her, and her demeanor is 360 degrees. She is now me, because her husband had had a heart attack the month before and had died. So when I walked in there, it's almost like, because before it was like, she's like, okay, I know you're suffering, but I can't relate to really what you're going through. Now she did, and she didn't like it.
mm-hmm.
Didn't like where she was. She hated it. I ended up sitting there for my time. I ended up sitting there for 40 minutes while she was just railed against her husband because he ate all the wrong foods, and he never listened to her, and he was obese, and he died early, and now know what she's gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
And I just that stayed with me forever, because I'm just like, that's so weird. And and she was so angry, going like, now you get it. Now you understand why I come in here with that chip there, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not easy to remove. And and out of Albie and Alice, definitely Alice has that chip.
Mm-hmm.
Albie's too innocent to have a chip.
Yeah.
He really is. He's such a sweet character. But Alice, on the other hand, she has every reason to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And if she took a dive off that, if I walked onto that bridge, if I walked on that bridge and I saw Alice there, and I knew what she had gone through, I'm not so sure I say anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so sure I would. If she was that determined to go, I don't, and I got that. I got that in her character, the way she talked, and but she still had that last gasp of humanity there to reach out to Albie, and like, I know you were gonna jump,
Yeah.
because she read him, because she felt the same thing that she was feeling herself, and it really conveyed it really well. I want to say that it's yeah. Um, and Rob's going to be here, and Rob's going to be in this new movie too.
Yeah.
That's just cool. That's just cool as hell. Now, tell us a little bit about your start in England. Now, you moved to you did now. How did you go from being in Great Britain? How did you end up coming out here to America? What brought you out here?
Well, I was I was a professional musician for most of my adult life, and that entailed an awful lot of traveling, and which is fine when you're in your 20s, but when you hit your 40s, it's not so easy, you know. And it's like I still don't. I'm still we're just working to pay the rent and doing my best, and when you do something that you love, but you have to keep doing it day after day after day after day just to like feed yourself and whatever, then it's very easy to lose your love for it, you know. So I decided that my other great love was filmmaking, but I didn't know if I could actually turn it into a career. But then I discovered Iowa some years ago because I was a huge fan of Gene Seberg, and they were having a festival in Marshalltown, which is her birthplace, to celebrate the reopening of a theatre that she used to go to when she was a kid. And they invited me to be a keynote speaker at it. So I discovered Iowa. I discovered the Midwest, in which I hadn't really known before. All my previous, visits to America had been all the obvious places like New York and San Francisco and Chicago and Los Angeles and all these sort of places. So, and when I came to the Midwest, it was like, yeah, now I see this. I see this part of America. I understand this. This is the America that was in the movies when I was a kid. This is every John Wayne movie. This is Peanuts. This is Badlands. You know what I mean? It's that.
Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
With
Exactly.
the tornado. With the tornado.
It's a Wonderful Life. Absolutely. I mean, Marshalltown could be the town, and It's a Wonderful Life. It's that similar, And so yeah, I sort of connected with it. And then when I had the idea for Little Johnny Jewel, I was looking for a setting for it, and I realised it was contradictory. It needed both a lot of space, and it also needed to feel claustrophobic. And you can't accomplish that in the UK because there isn't enough space. But Iowa has plenty of space. You can feel pretty isolated pretty easily in some of the space, So I realized it was the perfect setting for the film. So I became really focused on making the film there. And then various things happened. And I came to the States just, to explore the various possibilities. And I wound up married and staying here, and things like that started happening. And then, of course, the other thing is that once you've made one film, once you've created your infrastructure and you've found your people, and you've started to uncover the talent and the possibilities, why would you leave at that point? Why would you go somewhere else? There's so much still to explore here.
Rebecca, was it love at first sight when you met Jude? I mean, did you, as soon as you saw him, you go like, and you heard that accent, English accent, and you go like, that's it, that's who I'm, that's it.
I wouldn't say so when I met him, I thought that he was a really interesting person, and I really enjoyed working with him. And so I was really excited when he asked me to come and do Dreamtime. But I was actually in a previous relationship at that time that we originally met. And by the time Dreamtime came around, I was no longer in that relationship. But we spent a lot of time together during Dreamtime. Yeah. And I started talking to him at first we started talking about the character, and we started talking about the script, and then that kind of descended into us talking about other stuff. And then
you started hanging out at my house every day, even when we weren't working. So.
I did. Well, I ended up leaving a job, and so I ended up leaving a job, and so I had quite a bit of free time. And you had mentioned one of the times that we were doing something that you missed a good road trip, and I was sitting at home, thinking, well, I'm still looking for a new job. I don't have anything to do this week. So he had mentioned that, and I'm like, I'm just going to ask if he wants to go on a road trip. And so I said, do you want to go on a quick day trip to Kansas City? And so we did a quick day trip down to Kansas City. And I mean, I already at that point in time knew that he was somebody I wanted to hang out with. I knew he was fun. I really enjoyed talking to him. We would sit and talk for like 8 hours, 10, 12 hours in the car, just chatting. And then when we went to Kansas City, on the drive to Kansas City, I was kind of like, yeah, no, I think I like him a little bit more.
And there were two incidents as well. One of them was I bought her a bottle of water that she hadn't asked for.
Oh yeah.
And she thought, wow, he's really kind.
Yeah.
And then the other one was I stopped her getting arrested.
Yes.
In Missouri.
I got pulled over. Yeah, I got pulled over in Missouri for speeding, and I did not realize that I did not have
your insurance.
My insurance card with me. And so I was like frantically trying to find my email that had my insurance card.
It's a mandatory 24 hours in the clink if you get arrested in Missouri.
That's what they told me. That's what they told me. And I was like, I can't find my card. And I was calling my mom frantically because I'm like, can you help me? And
that's sort of chicken shit because they could always tell if you have insurance.
Yeah.
Well, what he ended up
she was forced to sit in the cop car.
Yeah, he took me back to the cop car, and we were in the cop car, and he was talking, and I was like frantically on my phone, like trying to find an email with the insurance and trying to find, trying to get a hold of my mom, just trying to find somebody that could prove that I had insurance.
He came to talk to me.
Yeah, he got really interested.
Said, so you're English? And I'm like, yeah, what are you doing here? I'm a filmmaker. Is this your first time going to Kansas City? Yeah. He said, are you looking for locations for the film? Oh, well, you never know. And he's like, well, I don't want to be the one that stops you making a film in Kansas City, so let it go.
Yeah, he let me go because I was like, he just really wants to see Kansas City.
I'm sensing a role for this cop in a new movie.
Yeah.
No, I found that out too when they stopped me here in Michigan, and I didn't have my tags either. I didn't have my proof of insurance. I had an expired one. I said, well, this is expired, but he had already ran me, and he knew that I was current. And he says, I know you're current. I know you're good to go, but please just carry the current one with you.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, of course. Let's see. Now Hobbs is sitting there saying, I believe you now can pull up your phone with your policy on it. Yeah,
that's
you can actually
trying to do, but she couldn't get an internet connection by the side of the road. And
northern Missouri does not have a great internet connection.
Northern Missouri.
Yeah. No.
So I gotta ask one question though, real quick. Have you seen, since you've been here, how many years have you been here in the United States?
Coming up to 4.5.
4.5. Now, have you seen one of our tornadoes yet?
Oh yeah, I was here during the big derecho in 2019. So I've lived through an inland hurricane.
Yeah, derechos are interesting, aren't they?
Yeah, it demolished half the town that I was in.
Yeah,
and it wreaked havoc across 100 miles of Iowa, but we've been having quite a lot of tornadoes recently. I always know when it's a tornado because Rebecca's hiding under the stairs. So.
In the basement, yeah. I have my tornado safety place, and it's funny because I
sleep through it. So.
Well, I passed him on the stairs. The first tornado warning. He was going up the stairs as I was going down the stairs, and I was like, "There's a tornado warning," and he's like, "I'm making dinner," and he just went right on up the stairs to. He's very much fit in with your typical Iowan of how they handle tornado warnings. Just completely ignor it and go about their business.
I mean, I was in.
I hate to say this because I'm gonna make me look like a nut, but I tended to ignore them too because because we don't get too many tornadoes in Michigan, but we did get one last August. We got an EF0, which is the lightest one possible. But it still messed things up. It still ruined half of a city park.
Well, we had
it knocked power off for 3 days.
We had no power for a day last week, so because of a tornado. But I mean, I slept through. I was in Los Angeles in 2017 when I had the earthquake, and I slept through that. So, but I mean, in London, I slept through the terrorist bombings, you know, in 2005, and my dad finally, my phone rang, and I was like, what? He said, "There's been a bomb. Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Well, I didn't know there was a bomb." You know, the only evidence to me that the whole city was under lockdown was that my mail was late. You know, so
Mm.
I'm used to it really.
So what's next? What's immediately next? I mean, you just released Mania, right?
Yeah, yeah. We
So
premiered that in New York like 2 weeks ago. 15th of May. Yeah, but we're in pre-production, very deeply into pre-production for Three Witches, which is what I can only describe as, well, it's a mashup of Macbeth and Heart of Darkness. Have you ever seen Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead?
I have heard of that. I have never seen that.
So what it is, it's a parallel plot with Hamlet, in which two of the minor characters for Hamlet, it actually follows them rather than the story of Hamlet, but it's happening at the same time. So occasionally it crosses over with the events of Hamlet, you know, but otherwise it follows these minor characters. And I thought, from the day I saw that movie, I thought, you know what? If you're going to do a parallel plot with minor characters from a Shakespeare play, by far the most interesting, the ones that people want to watch, are the Three Witches from Macbeth. You know, and so I always knew I wanted to do something with them, and then I had the idea of like their parallel plot should be Heart of Darkness, you know, Apocalypse Now, that story, but it should be a comedy. So basically, the Heart of Darkness part of the story is like a folk horror version of the story, and the Macbeth part of the story is a spaghetti western. Because let's face it, Macbeth was always a medieval Scottish spaghetti western. That's what it always was.
That's a good way of putting it. Maybe like a haggis instead of a spaghetti western, a haggis western.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah, that's a good one actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna. Also, the other thing is that it has an all-female cast, which is, we're not gender swapping any of the roles or anything. They're just all played by women, because in Shakespeare's day they were all played by men.
Right, including the women, yeah.
Including the women. So we thought it would be just fun to redress that balance by having them all played by women this time.
That's funny, because that's funny you mentioned that, because we've been talking about audiobooks, and people have been listening to more and more audiobooks, and I just can't get into them. I just can't, because I'm like, I would be into audiobooks if they had character voices matching the characters.
Yeah.
Having a guy read at a girl's point of view, it just does not do it for me.
Well, the way my dad read Winnie the Pooh to me as a kid, he would do the voices for Eeyore and Tigger and what have you, and I was like, if you're going to do it right. So, yeah, I completely agree with that. I actually I started listening to an audiobook this morning, and I turned it off after about 15 minutes, because it's like, this is just,
yeah. I will tell you this real quick though. It's interesting. Now people talk about podcasting, doing podcasting like we're doing here for this show or whatnot. But through the podcast, what I'm starting to hear and what I'm starting to feel is that people are starting to do radio dramas again through podcasts. Through podcast. I'm pretty excited about that, because that's how I cut my teeth into everything. By using my imagination, and
there was a British radio show, comedy show from the 1950s called The Goon Show, and also people like Tony Hancock and these half-hour comedy radio shows and plays and things from the 50s and 60s. And my dad had records of these things, and he would record them off the radio. So I grew up listening to things like that, and of course, because they're entirely dependent on you engaging with it and using your imagination, so they really can't be beaten in terms of sheer visceral power. Because if you have the imagination for it, they will take you anywhere. And so that's really cool to hear that people are doing those again.
So now, what was it like going to New York to release Mania? I mean, media going to be distributed by any company? Will we be able to buy it, or will only be stream only?
Well, none of our films are available to stream just now, which is an interesting choice that I made because it won't take too long to go into. But in terms of like a business model, what I wanted to do was I wanted to get, because all of our films have been screened theatrically, which is something I'm really proud of. But they haven't done the biggest runs. But what I wanted to do was work towards getting a big distribution deal for all of the films, and I knew that in order to do that, I had to eventually work towards a film that's going to have a high enough profile that it will carry everything with it, you know. And
Right.
Three Witches might be that film because we have a major British celebrity in it, which is Toya Wilcox. That's the exclusive. That's a world exclusive. We haven't said that yet. But yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that means that the film has, at least it's going to have a profile, you know, in the UK. And sometimes it only takes like one country to pick up on it, and then people are like, well, why are they so excited about it? And then they start watching it, you know.
Well, you do have two English, though. You still got two English. You got the first one you mentioned, and then you got Jeeves. How was Rob's accent? Did you watch You Should Have Killed Me? Have you seen that film yet by Michael Menard?
No.
Oh my God, you have to watch that, and you have to come back when you come back to visit us. I'm going to ask you again of how was his English accent. I thought he did pretty well, actually.
Rob did an English accent, did he?
Yeah, he played Jeeves. He was Jeeves is awesome.
Yeah.
He's definitely one of my favorite characters in quite a while, and so yeah, he comes out there and he's got this perfect accent, and he's like, no need to be crass.
Is he based on the P.G. Woodhouse character, Jeeves and Wooster?
Yeah, he plays a fixer. He's like,
Right.
Like if you have a mess going on, you call Jeeves to pick it up, and and then you don't have to worry about it.
Jeeves, then, yeah. So, because Jeeves is
so-
supposed to be the valet and the butler, but he's basically sorting everything out for everybody all the time.
Exactly, and does a great job at it too. Yeah. So what's next for you, Rebecca? Are you just gonna? I mean, it's gonna sound funny, but are you gonna go ahead and just continue to work the films with Jude, or are you gonna stretch your wings and try to go with another project, audition for something else, or what's the plan?
So, I mean, I've done some other projects even during our time together working with over the past year, 2 years,
Yeah,
2 years now.
I've
done some other projects. I'm open to any kind of project that comes my way that has a compelling, interesting character that I would like to bring to life. So, I'm always open to having conversations with filmmakers, or even, if I see something that I think would be a fun character, I'm putting myself out there and auditioning.
And she has the lead role in the next film. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, I am in his next his next project, the Three Witches. So that's the only thing that's like officially next on my schedule, I think.
And unofficially, we're having a baby in about a month.
Oh yeah.
So
congratulations.
So the baby will be available as well.
Oh yeah.
For anyone who needs a baby for parts, and she's definitely going to be in the film.
Now, will you provide diapers along with the baby?
No, you got to provide your own diapers.
Oh.
Yeah.
You better tell the exec to redo the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hobbs asked a quick question about your work on Mania. Now you mentioned about Shakespeare, Guilds and
Guildenstern, yeah.
Yes. Now, have you always been a big fan of Shakespeare, or has that been one of your and why Shakespeare always seems to be what actors learn on? It always fascinates me that when people learn how to act.
I think, if you're English, Shakespeare is just part of the whole fabric of your culture anyway, like the Beatles, and David Bowie and the Sex Pistols. It's all the same to me, and So Shakespeare's something that's just always been part of my sort of natural heritage in that regard. And but it's also the other thing about Shakespeare, because I never thought I would ever do an adaptation. I've always written my own stuff from scratch. I never thought I would do an adaptation of anything. But then, if you're going to do anything at all, Shakespeare's a good place to look. I mean, you've only got to look at like everything from like Forbidden Planet to West Side Story. You know, and is basically a version of a Shakespeare play. You know, there's so many things. So if you want to do anything other than the kind of hero's journey, which is what 99% of Hollywood movies are on TV. If you want to do anything, you want to do something different to that, you look to Shakespeare really, because he was the guy who changed that. He was the right. None of his, the villains are very often the protagonist in his plays. You know, it's not as straightforward as the hero's journey, and that's what I love about it. It's something different, you know. So, and in this case, if you want to create an interesting ensemble piece, I mean, what's more fun than a bunch of witches? You know what I mean? Really, it's like the Wizard of Oz times 100. You know, so
no, I get it. All right. I'm looking at my clock. I have hit the time, and I want to go ahead and start wrapping this up. First, I want to say thank you very, very much for coming in and doing the show with us. I appreciate it so much. I'm glad you came and did it too, Rebecca. I just could not see doing one without the other. And I'm so glad that you came down and hung out with us and answered a few questions as well. I could see a bright future for the entire family. And after Three Witches is done and get ready to release, we'd love to have you come back and talk to us about it.
Sure.
Thanks for having us.
About it. So,
it was a joy. It was a real joy. I really enjoyed this show tonight. I really liked talking to you folks. I want to thank the chat for coming out here and hanging out with us. And Brene says, do you have a YouTube channel?
No.
Not yet.
No, we don't have one. Don't intend to have one, actually.
No, don't. But they do have Instagram, so I will put that up there. And we can go ahead and drop that down there as well. And thank you for the chat for coming and hanging out, Brene and Larry the Cat Dad and Hobbs and Star Lord earlier. I appreciate it so much. We will be back tomorrow with Sophie May V. Artist Sophie May V will be with us tomorrow night at 8:00 here on 8 Questions With. And then on Thursday, we have Streaming Scream on Thursday, the podcast Scream and Stream on Thursday. Did I say that right? Yeah, Streaming Scream. Okay. I get confused sometimes. We'll be talking with Jess and Glenn. They have a brand new podcast up and running, and we will be talking to them. It's a very good podcast. Really enjoyed it. Listened to a couple of episodes already. They're fun and they're witty and they're very cute, and they're best friends, which makes the podcast a lot more fun. And that will be the rest of our week. I want to thank everybody for your support. And if you two guys will stay there for 1 minute, I'm going to say goodnight to the chat. And about 10:30, the Boneyard will be happening over on Mr. Bones' channel. So that's where we'll be about 10:30 or so. Thanks for coming out. We'll see you tomorrow night. Peace.